What's up guys, my name is Ace, and a couple days ago we did a full breakdown and stat comparison for the assault rifles in XDefiant. Now it's time to cover the SMGs. And I've got to say right up front here, just like with the assault rifles, there don't appear to be any real clear winners or losers in the SMG category, and a lot of this is going to come down to personal preference, but I still wanted to have a look at the stat comparison so we know what we're working with and what the pros and cons are for each of these SMGs. Another thing to keep in mind here is throughout this video, we are not talking about attachments at all. We're just talking about the base SMGs, as it is still going to take some time to get all of the attachments unlocked for everything. So without further ado, let's dive into our range and time to kill comparison with the SMGs. And hopefully these colors don't get too confusing. I had to start adding a pattern to some of them just because I'm not used to working with this many shots to kill with my typical Call of Duty videos. But the first thing to point out is all of these SMGs are going to be a 6-shot kill to the body in the maximum damage range. And our time to kill potential is going to range from 300 milliseconds with the Vector all the way up to 375 milliseconds with the MP5. So there's actually a decent amount of variance there compared to what we saw with the assault rifles, although that's primarily just because the Vector is a standout in really close quarter situations. All of the other SMGs are far more comparable time to kill wise. However, as a trade-off to that faster time to kill with the Vector, we do have the shortest range potential there at just 13 meters. As for the next thing that I think is really important to understand with the SMGs in this game, they have extremely harsh range fall-offs. For all of them, they drop from a 6-shot kill immediately to an 8 to 10-shot kill in their second damage range, and then in the minimum damage ranges, we're looking at up to 13 shots to kill with these. And that's an insane number of shots to kill against enemies, and therefore SMGs in this game aren't nearly as versatile as many other FPS games on the market. They're really only designed to excel within about that 20 meters or a little less than 20 meters. Anything beyond that, you're going to be completely outclassed by everything aside from obviously shotguns and some of the pistols. As for headshots, we've actually got a good amount of consistency here. With all of the SMGs in that maximum damage range, you do require at least 2 headshots mixed in with body shots to cut that down to a 5-shot kill, and you can see the time to kill values posted there. We're ranging from 240 milliseconds with the Vector up to 300 milliseconds with the MP5, and you can see the headshot multiplier isn't consistent between all of the guns. So the Vector and the MP7 have a 1.2 times multiplier, whereas the P90 and MP5 have a multiplier of 1.35. So in general, with the SMGs, I'd say if you feel confident, definitely try to mix those headshots in. It will absolutely help your time to kill potential if you're hitting your shots consistently, but you will need at least 2 of those headshots mixed in with body shots in order for it to make a difference with all of the SMGs in their effective ranges. Now, what about Phantom users? What does this do to the SMGs if you're playing against somebody that's using Phantoms with 120 health rather than 100? Well, now in that maximum damage range, it's going to take us an extra shot to kill for all of the SMGs, but just 1 extra shot to kill, so it's a 7-shot kill. And now our time to kill potential will range from 360 milliseconds with the Vector up to 450 milliseconds with the MP5. So unlike with the assault rifles where you really see some heavy benefits to using certain assault rifles like the M16 against Phantom users, in this case it doesn't matter all that much. Obviously with a higher rate of fire it allows you to kill a little bit faster, but at the end of the day it's just taking 1 extra shot to kill against those Phantom users in the effective ranges. Now, it is also worth noting, with the Vector and MP7, it will take you up to 15 shots to kill to the body against a Phantom user at longer ranges. So that's just a good sign that if you see a Phantom at those ranges, you're better off repositioning and trying to get yourself up close before even attempting to take that shot, because you're just straight up not going to win unless they're totally clueless. As for the next stat I want to look at with SMGs, since there is a lot of variance here, this is our magazine capacity, reserve ammo, and our reload time. And when it comes to our default magazine capacity for the Vector, this is pretty bad, especially considering the super high fire rate at 1,000 rounds per minute. This is only 25 rounds, so you're going to be burning through those really quickly. Whereas with the P90, we get a 50 round mag by default, and that's excellent. Also, the MP7 is not bad at 35 rounds by default. Now, all of this will carry over to our reserve ammo, so how much ammo you actually spawn with outside of the magazine that's already in your gun. With the Vector, we only get 100 extra rounds, and again, you're going to be burning through that ammo quite quickly. And then finally, I want to take a look at our reload add time. Now, this is the amount of time it takes to reload without any unnecessary animation, so it's how much time it takes for the ammo on the bottom right to update, which means your gun is technically reloaded at that point. And with this, the P90 is by far the slowest at 2.27 seconds, but it does have that larger magazine to compensate for that. And it's also worth noting the MP7 is very fast at 1.37 seconds, whereas the Vector and the MP5 are somewhere in the middle, and honestly, this isn't a great reload time for these, so you probably want to invest in some sort of a magazine attachment to either speed up your reload or just increase your magazine capacity, especially with the Vector. I'd say that's absolutely necessary to really get the most out of that gun, and that's one of the key trade-offs with the Vector in order to gain that crazy fast time to kill potential in close quarter situations. And now that we have that out of the way, let's get into our recoil comparison with these guns. And just like with the assault rifles, our recoil patterns are incredibly consistent. It's going to be essentially the same exact pattern every single time, with only minor random variances due to that little bit of side-to-side bounce as it follows the recoil path. But as you can see here, they're all very similar in this area. Every single one of these SMGs kicks upward with a little bit of a lean to the right. A couple key things to point out though. First off, with the P90, I only fired 30 out of 50 rounds, just so it makes a little more sense for comparison's sake with the others. And out of all of these, the MP5 technically has the highest magnitude of both vertical as well as horizontal recoil. But like I said, they're all so similar, I wouldn't say this is like a major problem. It's still pretty much as easy to control the recoil with the MP5 as it would be for the other SMGs. Another thing to point out here is the MP7 does tend to have a bit more side-to-side bounce as it's kicking upwards, and that's the type of recoil that you can't really predict and account for properly. So realistically speaking, I would actually say the MP7 is the hardest to control out of all of these, but within the effective ranges where you should be using these SMGs, I wouldn't consider any of these to be inaccurate. And with that done, let's now move on to our handling stats. And all of the SMGs have very solid aim down sight speeds, ranging from 170 milliseconds with the P90, that is the fastest, up to 185 milliseconds with the MP7. Really not much of a variance here. You honestly won't even notice a huge difference between those two. So all of the SMGs are quite fast here, and it turns out our sprint out times are exactly equal to our aim down sight times here. So obviously you see the exact same trend. And then finally for the stat comparison here, let's have a look at our mobility stats, since the in-game detailed stats aren't really displaying accurate values at the moment at least. So when it comes to our base movement speed, so this is when we're walking at full speed while standing up but we're not sprinting, all of the SMGs are exactly the same here at 4.32 meters per second based on my hand testing, which by the way, this is only about 3.5% faster than the assault rifle's base movement speed. But then when it comes to our sprint speed, this is just a 1.5 times multiplier from the base speed, so all of our SMGs will sprint at 6.48 meters per second. And then finally, when it comes to our aim walking speed, generally speaking, you multiply the base movement speed by 0.7. However, there is one exception here, and this is the P90. Based on my tests, the P90 actually moves a little bit faster when aiming down sight compared to the other SMGs at 3.13 meters per second. And with that, that finally wraps it up for the full stat comparison of all of the SMGs that are currently in XDefiant. And like I told you guys at the beginning, I don't think there's really a clear winner or loser when it comes to the SMGs, although I do want to go through each and just share my opinions on them based on my experiences as well as this stat breakdown that I've done. So obviously, if you're looking for just the fastest possible time to kill up close, the Vector will be the clear winner here. In saying that though, there's a lot of downsides that come with the Vector, like a noticeably worse range than the other SMGs, plus that magazine capacity, especially by default while you're leveling up to get attachments. That can be really rough to deal with if you run into multiple enemies. So there's definitely some downsides attached to that, and therefore it's not my favorite versatile SMG. Then we've got the P90. I love that you get that 50 rounds by default with a P90. It still kills quite effectively in the maximum damage range as well, and you get the additional benefits of that faster aim walking speed, but it is going to be reloading quite slow. After that, we've got the MP7, and I think this is a good all-arounder. I would say for versatility in the SMG category, the MP7 is my favorite at the moment. You've got a very solid time to kill potential, solid range value, great reload time, and not a bad default magazine capacity at 35 rounds, with the only real downside being I would consider it to be the hardest of the SMGs to control the recoil, but like I said earlier, as long as you're keeping yourself in the effective ranges, this recoil really shouldn't be a problem for you, so I really like the MP7. And then finally, we've got the MP5. And if you made me pick my least favorite SMG right now in XDefiant, it would be the MP5. Now, that's not to say that the MP5 isn't perfectly usable. There's nothing really inherently wrong with the MP5. I can still find success with it. But when you look at the breakdown compared to the other SMGs, it's either going to be slightly worse than most of the other SMGs or just bang on average. There's nothing about the MP5 that really makes it a special gun, and therefore I have no problem using it for variety's sake. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking at why I would use each of the SMGs, I can't really think of a good reason to pick the MP5 over the others. And with that, that is going to wrap it up for today's breakdown on the SMGs, and I'm really curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Out of all of the SMGs in XDefiant so far, what are your favorites and least favorites to use at the moment? Also, if you guys did miss the episode on the assault rifles, I will leave that linked in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.